3 weeks before my sister's wedding, I felt the familiar tension tighten in my chest as I reviewed the invites my parents had been sending out. The ceremony was set in a grand ballroom of a 5-star hotel in Charleston. The flowers arranged to perfection, each petal meticulously placed, the live band rehearsing each song until flawless. My sister, Harper, was ecstatic beyond measure, oblivious to the undercurrents brewing just beneath the surface, smiling at guests, snapping pictures for social media, and praising the planners. I, on the other hand, had long suspected that I would be overlooked in the chaos, that my contributions and sacrifices would be erased from the narrative. My suspicions were confirmed when the invoice arrived, a meticulously detailed document capturing costs, payments, and contributions, yet my name was conspicuously absent. I stared at it, feeling a mix of shock, betrayal, and a simmering anger that refused to subside. It wasn't about the money, though the $38,000 total was not insignificant. It was about recognition, acknowledgement, the invisible labor I had poured into every aspect of this event. Every late night spent coordinating with florists, ensuring the caterers had the correct menu, resolving last-minute logistical issues, all ignored. I called my mother first, attempting to keep my voice calm, steady, neutral. "Mom, I noticed my name isn't on the wedding invoice," I said, hoping she would treat it as a simple clerical oversight. There was a pause, then a faint, dismissive tone. "Oh, I didn't realize, honey. We'll fix it." But it wasn't a minor clerical error. It was a deliberate erasure from a public record, a manifestation of years of subtle disregard. And my chest tightened as I realized she didn't comprehend the weight of this act. I began reviewing every transaction I had made. Deposits for the venue, payments for decorations, catering invoices, tip sheets for vendors, my own meticulous notes on scheduling. Each dollar I spent, each hour I coordinated, was evidence of my involvement, and I compiled it all into an organized system. Spreadsheets, receipts, emails, screenshots, each item annotated with context and dates. My hands shook slightly, heart racing, as I drafted a formal letter, methodical and precise, not a word wasted, detailing every action I had undertaken, every dollar contributed, every aspect of the wedding logistics that had relied on me. "Dear Mom and Dad," I began, "I noticed that my contributions to Harper's wedding are not reflected in the official documentation or the invoice distributed to guests. As you know, I contributed $8,000 toward the venue deposit, coordinated payments totaling $5,200 for catering, managed floral arrangements costing $3,100, and oversaw seating logistics, which prevented multiple conflicts. This oversight should be rectified promptly, as recognition for these efforts is fair and necessary." I sent the letter via certified mail to ensure no claims of non-receipt. I waited, each day heightening the tension as I imagined their reactions. Finally, a text arrived. "We saw your letter. We'll discuss it at dinner." That dinner was predictable. The attempt to downplay the issue, the casual gestures to maintain civility, the constant minimizing of my contributions. But I was prepared, calm, having invited 2 friends who had witnessed the planning process firsthand. I methodically went through each point, comparing invoices, receipts, and screenshots, showing how critical my involvement had been. Their reactions shifted subtly, disbelief intermingling with guilt and frustration, as they understood that their oversight could no longer be brushed aside. My father's voice wavered slightly. "We were busy with so many details. It must have slipped our minds." While my mother attempted a strained smile, but the tension was palpable. I didn't raise my voice. I let the evidence speak. Then I took it further, ensuring this recognition could not be erased. I contacted the photographer and videographer, requesting all candid images and footage capturing my coordination, the way I orchestrated the event behind the scenes, from vendor meetings to last-minute table adjustments. I created a private digital gallery titled "My Contributions to Harper's Wedding," complete with videos, images, and detailed financial documents, and shared it with the extended family, noting, "Please review the contributions that made the day possible." Reactions were immediate. Cousins who had been indifferent now sent messages expressing surprise and admiration. Friends reached out acknowledging the meticulous planning. Even Harper texted me personally, "I couldn't have done this without you." The public display of evidence forced my parents into silence. Over the next few weeks, subtle changes emerged. Invitations to future family events included my name. Casual references to my planning and contributions became commonplace. Even my parents consulted me when organizing subsequent family milestones. Recognition was no longer optional. It wasn't about revenge, but fairness. Transforming my invisible efforts into undeniable acknowledgement became a quiet victory, and the dynamics of my family shifted toward accountability. The satisfaction stemmed not from confrontation, but from strategic action. Through this experience, I realized that visibility and recognition are earned not merely through argument or emotional display, but through meticulous documentation, strategic presentation, and clear communication. The patterns of neglect and unacknowledged effort that had existed for years were exposed, corrected, and remembered. My role in Harper's wedding became a reference point for all future family planning, ensuring that contributions were respected, acknowledged, and incorporated into the collective memory of our family. I had transformed invisibility into visibility, oversight into recognition, and, most importantly, I had reclaimed my agency within a family that had consistently undervalued me. The story spread quietly among friends and extended family, reinforcing the lesson that effort, presence, and commitment cannot be ignored. Each moment I documented, each interaction I highlighted, and each piece of evidence I shared created a narrative that was undeniable, structured, and human. Through careful planning, strategic communication, and unwavering composure, I had secured my place in family history in a way that would never be forgotten, transforming a simple oversight on a $38,000 invoice into a profound lesson about accountability, respect, and the value of being seen. Every phone call, email, and discussion reinforced the narrative. Methodical preparation and clarity of evidence outweighed emotional outbursts. I had learned that quiet persistence could command more attention than anger or confrontation. Family gatherings shifted subtly. My contributions were acknowledged proactively. Planning discussions included my input first. My presence was no longer invisible. The act of documentation became a tool for empowerment, a testament to careful preparation and an unflinching eye for detail. And while the initial omission had caused shock and hurt, the resolution delivered not only recognition, but a profound transformation in how I was perceived within my family. The wedding, once a symbol of my erasure, became a monument to the power of diligence, precision, and assertiveness, proving that meticulous planning and strategic action could rewrite narratives, restore respect, and solidify one's role in any shared venture or family milestone. Every smile I received afterward carried weight. Every nod of acknowledgement confirmed that the effort I had invested was visible, appreciated, and enduring. Through this process, I discovered that recognition is not given lightly. It must be claimed thoughtfully, demonstrated convincingly, and communicated clearly. The story of that $38,000 wedding invoice became a personal manifesto, a case study in turning invisibility into acknowledgement, frustration into strategic action, and oversight into long-term respect. By amplifying evidence, documenting meticulously, and presenting confidently, I reshaped family dynamics, created a lasting legacy of visibility, and learned an invaluable lesson about advocacy, strategy, and the subtle art of ensuring that every contribution is seen, respected, and remembered. After the initial shock and the strategic assertion of my contributions, I began noticing subtle shifts in the family's dynamics. Harper's constant chatter about the wedding, once annoying in its intensity, now contained a note of gratitude when she glanced my way. Even my parents, who had previously brushed off my presence during planning meetings, now asked for my input on minor details, from flower arrangements to seating orders, as if testing my reaction to measure my temper. I realized quickly that they were walking on eggshells, unsure whether to treat me as the invisible helper or as an equal participant, a role I was determined to maintain. The next family gathering offered another chance to observe, and I took it as an opportunity to reinforce my position subtly. I arrived early, carrying a small binder containing my personal notes, receipts, and emails for upcoming family events, presenting a composed, almost casual demeanor. As relatives trickled in, I placed the binder on the sideboard with a light comment about preparing for the upcoming reunion, careful not to sound boastful, yet leaving the impression that my organizational role was indispensable. Throughout the evening, I noticed the same undercurrents that had previously gone unnoticed. Whispered corrections between my parents when they mentioned previous events. The subtle acknowledgement in Harper's tone when she included me in planning conversation. And the occasional glance from cousins who now recognized the meticulous care I had put into the wedding. Each observation became data, reinforcing my understanding of family hierarchy, social perception, and the power of quiet authority. I didn't need to dominate conversation. I needed to be remembered, acknowledged, and recognized for my impact without creating confrontation. Over the next few weeks, I began strategically engaging with each family member, offering subtle guidance on upcoming events, providing gentle reminders, and occasionally letting them witness my behind-the-scenes work through shared photos, emails, or schedules. My parents, still attempting to maintain their facade of casual authority, often accepted my suggestions, not realizing the way these small acknowledgments were shifting their perception of me. I recorded every minor interaction mentally, noting how they responded to my assertiveness versus their usual dismissive behavior. By the time my cousin's birthday approached, I had created a clear pattern. When I contributed ideas or managed minor logistical details, their acknowledgement was immediate, albeit understated. This quiet reinforcement ensured that I was no longer invisible, that my efforts were recognized without the need for public confrontation, and that my family was conditioned to view me as a competent, reliable, and indispensable participant in all family activities. During the cousins' party, I implemented a subtle but powerful demonstration of my organizational skill. I arrived early to coordinate with caterers, arrange decorations, and ensure that the guest list was properly confirmed. When minor errors arose, a miscounted set of chairs or a missing dessert tray, I addressed them discreetly, calmly, and efficiently. Relatives observed without realizing that they were witnessing the same competence that had saved Harper's wedding from unnoticed chaos. I left small notes of acknowledgement for the organizers, ensuring that the impact of my actions would be remembered. And I witnessed firsthand how my parents' usual dominance subtly wavered under the weight of my quiet efficiency. Each correction, each small success, reinforced my position without verbal confrontation. They could not ignore what was achieved. I also began documenting interactions more thoroughly, creating detailed logs of planning efforts, screenshots of emails, and notes of phone calls, all organized meticulously. This not only ensured I had evidence of my contributions for any future disputes, but also helped me maintain a sense of control and clarity over the family dynamics, something that had previously felt chaotic and unpredictable. By the time the holiday season arrived, I had established an unspoken authority. My suggestions were requested before decisions were made, my insights were considered seriously, and my presence was acknowledged actively. My parents' casual dismissiveness had transformed into cautious respect. Their gestures of oversight now tempered by the recognition that I was both aware and capable of enforcing my contributions subtly yet effectively. My sisters, cousins, and even extended family began to mirror my approach unconsciously, noticing, acknowledging, and deferring to my organizational skill without prompting. What had begun as a single incident, a wedding invoice that excluded my name, had expanded into a redefinition of my role within the family. I was no longer merely present. I was recognized, respected, and acknowledged as a central figure in all planning, decision-making, and logistics. By maintaining a balance of calm composure, strategic communication, and subtle reinforcement, I had turned potential resentment into empowerment, transforming my position from overlooked participant to key influencer within the family. The key lessons became evident. Careful observation, meticulous documentation, strategic yet subtle engagement, and patience could reshape family dynamics and command recognition without overt conflict. Each subsequent event, birthday parties, holiday gatherings, small celebrations, was another opportunity to reinforce this position. Through minor gestures, clear communication, and consistent competence, I ensured that my role was unassailable, my contributions undeniable, and my authority established quietly but firmly. The narrative of the wedding invoice became a case study within the family, a story referenced occasionally in conversation, a reminder that invisibility can be challenged and acknowledgement must be earned through consistent, undeniable effort. The transformation of relationships was not immediate or theatrical. It was slow, deliberate, and psychologically powerful. Each subtle acknowledgement, each quiet moment of recognition, Each minor decision where my input was requested reinforced the perception of capability and reliability. My parents, once dismissive and inattentive, now approached me with a newfound respect, unsure whether to assert control or follow my lead. This nuanced shift in perception was the ultimate victory, demonstrating that strategic, composed action can create lasting change without confrontation. Through these experiences, I learned that recognition is neither granted lightly nor demanded aggressively. It must be structured, documented, demonstrated, and subtly enforced. The art of quiet influence, backed by evidence and strategic presentation, can reshape long-standing social hierarchies within personal and family dynamics, turning past injustices into a platform for empowerment, visibility, and authority. This second phase of the story illustrated that the initial conflict, being omitted from recognition on a wedding invoice, was just the catalyst for a broader transformation. It taught me the power of preparation, the value of patience, the importance of documentation, and the subtle impact of consistent, quiet competence in commanding respect. By observing, recording, and strategically engaging with family members, I created a lasting change in how I was perceived, ensuring that my contributions were recognized, valued, and remembered. Each event reinforced these lessons. Each acknowledgement strengthened the pattern, and each minor interaction became part of a cumulative narrative establishing my place within the family. The power of quiet authority, methodical action, and strategic communication had turned a moment of exclusion into a permanent shift in family dynamics, leaving me not only acknowledged, but respected, and ultimately empowered. As the seasons changed, I noticed an almost imperceptible but powerful shift in how my family interacted with me. The initial tension over the wedding invoice had morphed into a broader awareness of my presence, my input, and my influence within the household. Each conversation, each gathering, was layered with subtle acknowledgement of my contributions. No longer overlooked, I had established an unspoken authority that permeated even the smallest family interactions. It began with casual acknowledgments, a brief nod from my mother when I suggested seating arrangements for the upcoming anniversary dinner, a hesitant glance from my father as I discussed the catering options, and a quiet acceptance from Harper whenever I offered input on event planning. These small, almost invisible moments compounded, reinforcing my position without creating overt conflict. I observed everything, noting the micro-expressions, the tone shifts, the pauses in speech when they realized I had anticipated a problem or solved an issue before it even arose. It was psychological territory, subtle, almost imperceptible, but potent. I began to leverage these moments strategically, guiding conversations gently, providing solutions before questions were asked, and framing my input as collaborative suggestions rather than commands. Each success reinforced their perception that I was both capable and indispensable. As the months progressed, I expanded my influence to extended family events. Birthdays, holidays, and casual gatherings became arenas to subtly demonstrate my organizational skills, my attention to detail, and my calm under pressure. Each act of foresight, from preparing schedules to managing logistics, subtly shifted the social hierarchy. Cousins, aunts, and uncles began consulting me on minor decisions, not out of obligation, but because they recognized the efficiency and thoughtfulness I brought. The same parents who had once dismissed my contributions now found themselves deferring to my judgment in quiet, almost imperceptible ways. They tested me occasionally, making small comments or challenging suggestions, but I had developed a rhythm, a presence that allowed me to respond with measured calm, using minimal words and letting actions speak louder than explanations. The power of observation, patience, and methodical engagement became clear. By maintaining consistent competence, documenting interactions, and providing solutions proactively, I had transformed my role from overlooked sibling to central figure in family operations. The subtle psychological impact was profound. My parents' casual attempts at dominance were tempered by the awareness that I could anticipate, correct, and guide without confrontation. The extended family, witnessing my consistent effectiveness, began reinforcing this perception organically, seeking my guidance and deferring to my judgment. It was a domino effect, quietly shifting influence and respect without drama. Each holiday dinner, each small gathering, became an opportunity to strengthen this position. I curated my interactions carefully, knowing when to speak, when to observe, when to act. I allowed minor mistakes by others to occur, then provided solutions with calm authority, letting recognition naturally follow. By the time the next major family event arrived, my niece's first birthday party, I had fully established my presence. Invitations and planning decisions included me automatically. Seating, catering, decorations, and entertainment choices were all influenced subtly by my prior interventions. Even parents who had once treated me as peripheral acknowledged my importance through inclusion and deference. This culmination was not a single dramatic moment, but a series of calculated, natural, and human interactions over time. Each event, each acknowledgement, reinforced the perception of my reliability, competence, and quiet leadership. The wedding invoice that had once excluded me was now a distant memory, overshadowed by the consistent recognition of my role. In quiet moments, I reflected on the transformation. I had not forced recognition through confrontation, anger, or demands. Instead, I had cultivated authority through subtle influence, strategic patience, careful observation, and consistent action. This approach preserved relationships while rebalancing power dynamics, establishing respect and visibility in ways that overt conflict never could. As the story concluded, I realized that the true power lay in quiet competence, methodical preparation, and strategic engagement. Family dynamics, long assumed rigid and hierarchical, could be reshaped without aggression, simply by demonstrating consistent value, anticipating needs, and responding with calm authority. The impact extended beyond recognition. It fostered trust, reliance, and a subtle admiration that had once seemed impossible. The journey from exclusion to acknowledgement illustrated the delicate interplay of patience, strategy, observation, and psychological insight. Every small action, every moment of proactive engagement had contributed to a broader shift in perception, one that reinforced my position, influence, and authority within the family. The lessons were clear: preparation, patience, observation, documentation, and calm execution were more powerful than confrontation, more effective than insistence, and more enduring than any fleeting argument. In the end, recognition and respect had been earned, not demanded, through deliberate, human, and thoughtful engagement that transformed past injustice into a foundation for lasting authority and influence. The family's perception had been recalibrated through consistent demonstration of competence and subtle influence. Each holiday, event, and decision reinforced my position. The narrative of the wedding invoice evolved from a single grievance into a comprehensive story of empowerment, strategy, and quiet leadership. Relationships shifted naturally, acknowledgement became habitual, and influence was solidified through repeated, thoughtful action. The story concluded with the understanding that influence does not require dominance or aggression. It requires consistency, patience, insight, and a careful balance of visibility and subtlety. Through this journey, the principles of strategic engagement, quiet authority, and psychological insight were not only learned but practiced, creating a lasting impact on family dynamics and personal empowerment. Recognition, authority, and respect had been established through calculated, human, and psychologically aware action. The transformation was complete, demonstrating that subtle influence and methodical engagement can reshape long-standing relationships, creating lasting acknowledgement and empowering individuals to claim their rightful place within social hierarchies, all without overt confrontation, shouting, or visible conflict. The culmination of this story was not a moment, but a pattern, a system, a repeated, deliberate set of actions that reshaped perception and established enduring influence within the family, a testament to the power of patience, strategic observation, and calm, consistent action. By the end, I had achieved not only acknowledgement, but genuine respect, transforming a past grievance into a platform for authority, influence, and personal empowerment, illustrating the effectiveness of thoughtful, methodical, and human-centered strategy in reshaping family dynamics and achieving long-term recognition and respect.